Welcome to Everything Dog Training with me, John McGuigan. Our goal is to bring you information on dog training methods which work and are kind, cutting through the myth and the folklore to help you have a better behaved, happier, emotionally healthier dog who is a joy to be around. Hi everyone, in today's episode we're talking to Katie Ozard. Katie qualified with an honours degree in Animal Science and Behaviour and Welfare from the University of Plymouth in 2011. After graduating, Katie returned to her home of Guernsey, where she worked at a local veterinary practice and qualified as an animal nursing assistant. Katie has always been fascinated by animal behaviour and has a special interest and passion in dog training and behaviour. While working privately as a dog trainer on the island, Katie took a job at a larger veterinary practice working specifically in canine rehabilitation. During this time she qualified in small animal hydrotherapy, and that was in 2017. After working in Guernsey for a number of years, Katie was given the opportunity to move away from the island and work in the UK at an orthopaedic and neurology referral centre within the rehabilitation team. Katie now aspires to expand her knowledge in this area alongside her passion in canine behaviour and training. She's now back in Guernsey and offering private training for puppies and dogs alongside behaviour modification consultations, and you can find her details in the show notes. Alright, hi Katie, how are you?
Hi John, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. So you're in Channel Islands?
Yeah, I'm in Guernsey at the moment.
Okay. And for folk that are not in the UK or Europe, where does Guernsey sit?
Guernsey is in the Channel Islands, which is a group of islands in between England and France.
Okay. So are you closer to France or England?
We're close to France.
Okay.
We can see France from where I am.
Oh wow, okay. Oh, that's close. Right.
Yeah, on a clear day you can see it on the horizon. So yeah, definitely close to France.
And is Jersey closer to France as well?
Yeah, Jersey's slightly further south than Guernsey is.
Ah, right, okay. You got lots of French names in your streets and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, we're all pretty much French here. Yeah, my address is French.
Okay.
Not that I can speak it very well.
And did it used to be part of France?
Don't
Don't
know. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's sort of in between both.
Yeah, okay. But it'll probably gone back a long way if it was part of French.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so we're going to talk about when was that? The beginning of, was it March or something like that, the litter of puppies?
No, it was it was May or June.
Okay, so tell us what happened. Tell us what was going on there.
So I've got a good friend, and she had a litter of Rottweiler puppies. She had 10 of them, and it was just after the lockdown started to release lockdown in Guernsey that basically the puppies were going to move to the UK, and she was going to have them longer than you would normally have them. So she was having them and taking them to the UK sort of about 11 and a half weeks, 12 weeks they'd be with their new owners. So I went round to see them, and she was like, would you like to help me do some training with them, because she's going to have them for a lot longer than she was planning to because of the lockdown. So she's given the opportunity to then help her train some of her puppies in preparation for their new homes. Did
you say that the two of them go to Jersey?
One of them went to Jersey and one of them stayed in Guernsey. Okay. So they went at 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then she's keeping 2 of them herself. Okay. But she shows, so it was mainly the 6 of them that I was going to do the work with for their new owners. And
when they were going to the UK when lockdown opened up again?
They were there. They were in Guernsey for a couple of months, and then because our lockdown we released quite a lot earlier than you guys. And she was moving to the UK herself, so it was because of all that she was taking them with her during the move. A big move with all the puppies and dogs as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so that's why, because people couldn't come into the island to come and get them.
Yeah.
Or so the travel arrangements just made it that they would be going later than planned.
So what age were they when they left, when she moved to the UK?
They were 11 and a half weeks.
Right, okay. So that's that kind of period of time where we've got to 8 to 12 weeks where we've got that nice socialisation period. You were working with them all through that?
Yeah, all through that. Yeah, I met them first when they were about 5 weeks.
Okay.
And then 7 weeks, I started doing a bit of training with them, and then I trained them until they were, I think I did the last one when they were 11 weeks as well, the last session.
And what kind of stuff did you do?
So to start with, the first session I did with them, I just got them used to a clicker and following a little lure with a little treat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you expand on what a lure is?
So a lure, I use a little, I had to actually find out which ones they liked, because at 7 weeks, they weren't all really into food. Mm-hmm. So managed to find some cheese that they liked. So a lure would be to put the treat, so luring them into a position using the treat, and then I would then reinforce that with the clicker, and then follow that up with the reinforcer as the treat, just to get a basic sit, a position sit. I wasn't using the word sit yet.
So the lure is that you have the treat or the toy in your hands, and then you kind of move it, and as the dog is following it, you can move them into position.
Yes.
That's right, yeah. Okay. And then when they're in the position that you want, you will then click and give them the treat or release the treat, and that's the reward for being in that position.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I saw from your videos, could you put some stuff up on Instagram and on your Facebook page?
Yeah, I did each little session and just recorded a lot of it and tried to just put up a little bit of what I was doing with each one.
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And you were doing, so the ones that I saw you doing were, you started doing some kind of follow stuff for lead walking.
Yeah.
And your sit and your down as well. Those were the ones that I saw. Yeah.
I don't know. Did you see the first one I did was inside, and that was the following a lure and then just marking that when they either came to me, just even following the lure to me, or if they did manage to do their sort of natural sit. And that was the first one I did with them. That was inside, and even paying me a little bit of attention. So it was kind of just getting them focusing a little bit. Even at that stage, some of them didn't like the clicker, and then some of them did.
Yeah.
I found a couple of them were a bit nervous of the noise, whereas a couple of the others were completely fine with it and responded really well.
Okay. How did you get around that?
The ones which were a little bit wary actually didn't use it. I just use a word. I just use yes as my marker, and they were fine with that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, but the next session, they were actually completely fine with it. So yeah.
So, that's interesting. So they didn't like it at the start, but then when you used it again the next session, they were fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So just because it's novel, probably.
Yeah, completely novel. Yeah, and I found a couple of them were a bit more, sort of a little bit on the wary side, but then by the end of the weeks I was working with them, they weren't wary at all of anything. They were completely fine. Yeah. So it was interesting how even between individual puppies at that age were very different to train, starting from 7 weeks as well.
Yeah, and so there's a number of things there that if you're selecting your puppy, is you go in and you get and everybody, a lot of people say, well, that's down to genetics at that stage, but it might not be. It might be that they're smaller and they're getting pushed out the way of the football when they come in, even at that stage there's some learning going on, and that will affect their future behaviours. Yeah,
massive learning going on. I think I actually found that the boys were slightly more responsive to my training, and slightly more confident than the girls actually. I noticed at that point. Don't know why that would have been at that point, but just kind of interesting to pick that up.
And that also then, it can potentially feed into these prejudices that we've got. Well, the Rottweiler boys are bolder than Rottweiler girls, but there's not enough data there to suggest that. We've got,
And then later on, it definitely wasn't like that either, because some of the girls were like super bold, and one of them ended up being brilliant to train at the end as well. She was awesome. So she was actually probably one of the ones which I found on my second session, when they were 8 weeks or 8.5 weeks, at that very critical time, actually. So it was 8.5 weeks. I got out my tripod and my camera, I put it down, and two of the girls did a sort of a startle response and were like, oh, what is this weird thing now on the floor? And then, but a couple of the boys were completely fine with that. And then the week after I did that, they're just like running all over the tripod, just like, it's like, yeah, this is cool. This is fine. So
there's a lot of stuff going on there, both from socialization and learning as well. So socialization would be like kind of when people, how do you explain socialization to clients when you're working with them, with puppies?
I explain that the socialization would be, because you've got socialization and like habituation.
Yeah.
And then socialization would be, you want to encourage really nice interactions with other people and dogs, whereas some other things like objects, you want them to just be completely fine with, and that's going to be like what's going to be in their environment. They don't need to interact with it.
It's just there.
It's just there, and they just need to get used to those things being there, like a bin or something moving, or a hoover being around. So they just need to get used to that sort of stimulus in the environment.
So when you put the camera down in a tripod, some of the dogs were cool with it immediately.
Yeah.
And then other ones, that there had to be some sort of what you would say, maybe more learning. That what is that? Is that okay?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, definitely. With two of the girls, I remember they were like, whoa, and they like looked at it like really strangely, backed off a little bit, went forwards a little bit, and then after like, you know, I took it away, and then I think I put it back again, and then they went up to it again and was like, oh, actually that's fine.
Yeah.
So that it happened very quickly. They got over it very quickly, but there was an obvious
something.
Yeah, obvious something that they were like, what is this?
And with the two that were spooky around with that, did you find that they were spooky around other objects, or did that, when you put other new things down to them, they were able to be, that's fine, that's okay? Or were they like that until they got used to a number of objects?
To be honest, I didn't do that much with them in that way, so I wasn't sure. But the breeder said she didn't really notice them being like that at all. And I didn't notice them having any sort of response like that to anything else further down the line. It was only that one day in that week, which I think would have been that sensitive period between the sort of the 8.5 weeks line. When they got to 9.5, 10 weeks, there was no sign of that at all.
Yeah, okay. So that's stage of development.
Yeah, it's a development to a stage, which I really noticed, yeah.
It was interesting because I was thinking, I don't know why this came into my head recently, and I had, I must have been, I think it was probably 10 or 11, and it was a summer's day, and I had this pair of sunglasses, right? 10-year-old with sunglasses, and I'd come back into my house, and my mum was in the house with her friend who they just stopped by to visit, and her friend had a little one who was about 18 months or 2 years old, and I had the sunglasses on, and I walked in the door, and the little one she got startled, and it was because of the sunglasses.
Oh,
you know. So and she started crying, and then my mum said, take the sunglasses off, and I took them off, and she was like, oh God, it's just a person, you know.
Yeah.
Somebody else. And because the adults, we recognise straight away that that's a person, but a 2-year-old, especially if somebody should not expect the person to come in, and then the person appears with big black eyes, you know, and that's weird.
Yeah, very weird.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's just having that awareness for your puppy to let them have that, and even with your adult dog, if they get spooked with something, they get spooked. You know, so let them be like you know, just get over it, you know, and I don't mean go over it, like go over yourself.
Yeah.
You know, take time to recover from that.
Just take time, yeah.
Yeah. I do it with Logan. He has, he's quite a big startle response to some things. So like if a few weeks ago, my son was changing the bin over. So he'd taken the bin liner out and was tying it up, and he put the swing bin lid on top of it. And as he went out, it fell over, and Logan lunged forward and started barking at it.
Uh-huh.
You know, and it's been a startle response he's had, and then he's had that reaction of barking. But I said it, and I just looked at him, and then he looked at me. I said, "It's cool. It's just a bin." And he was like,
oh,
"Oh, it is a bit. It's just a bin."
oh yeah, all
You
right.
know, and that's okay
Yeah,
because we all get a fright occasionally.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of things were you doing? What other stuff did you train them individually, or did you work them together?
Individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would take one of them away into the garden and work for a few minutes.
Yeah. So they're in their pen, and then I did them individually. So I took them away tried to do sort of 3-4 minutes, probably a little bit long, but I tried to sort of just push through a tiny bit. But they work pretty well. And then I put them back in, have another one, and then sometimes I'll do 2 of them if I had enough time to get through them.
Okay. Do 2 sessions, two
training sessions with a couple of them in one visit that I went to. So I'd start off with did a couple of minutes with like 2 of them at the beginning, and at the end I might get them back out again. So it would have been half an hour or so later, and did another little session with them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you said something that was really interesting there, because you said 3 or 4 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes, and that was maybe a little bit long. Right. So that's the training sessions we should be doing with naive dogs, puppies. Yeah. A new learner that you've got, so if you adopted a new dog, that's the length of your training session.
Yeah, really small.
Yeah. And why is that? Why do you keep them short?
Because they're so young, and their concentration, they get tired super quick, and they can only take in so much in one go. So you don't want to push them too far. And I could tell when they got to that limit of where they were getting tired. But I think if you're a new owner or something, you may not notice what signs there are that are tiredness or they're losing concentration.
What kind of things did you notice when you were starting to see that?
They either started to walk off a little bit more, that they looked like they were either getting, like, not listening, typically, but they were either getting tired and they were just like, well, this is a bit much. Or when I was doing the little bit of lead walking, some of them would then start to sort of maybe look round at the lead and do a little like little behaviour. They'd try and chew it a little bit or something. So
pulling on the lead and start pulling back on it.
Just a little bit, a little bit. They were super young, so they weren't pulling too much at all anyway. But just the signs that they were getting.
Tug on it rather than pulling on the lead, so they would grab it with their mouth and pull back on it.
Yeah, just sort of playing around with it. With their mouth. Yeah.
So there's a few things there that you could, if you're working in your own with your own dog, then taking video in your training sessions and then watching them back.
Yeah, that would be really useful. I learned a lot from actually watching myself.
Yeah, so did I. They were really good. I really enjoyed watching them. They were excellent. So you video your training sessions, and it means that when you start to when I say to people to use video, is to start then noticing what happens 30 seconds before the first behaviour that you don't like. Yeah. Because that's probably going to be the start of it. And then finish there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the first time the dog, doesn't re-engage immediately twice after you give them the treat. So we've got 2 in a row now, and you're like that. That's the start of it.
Yeah, that's the start of it. And then I was like, right, they're getting tired. Swap them in and out.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got them getting mentally tired, so you do training, and then your other, is it physio that you do, or hydrotherapy?
I do hydrotherapy at my local veterinary practice as well.
Okay.
For rehab dogs, yeah.
So having an awareness of the dog's physicality, that they're getting tired because they're getting physically tired.
Yes, as well, yeah.
Yeah. And the one I watched do, which was the one I liked them all, but this one was really nice, and I paid a lot of attention to it when one of the boys you were doing some lead walking with them. Mm-hmm. And so you are 5'7"? 5'7"?
5'4".
Really? Yeah. Okay, right. So anyway, 5'4". Okay, so that's about 168 centimeters.
164, I think.
There we go. Okay, 164. And the pups, at the shoulder is 10 or 12 centimeters at the shoulder.
Oh, crikey. I don't know, probably about 10 maybe.
Yeah. So you've got, if they're following you and they're holding their head up, looking at you, that takes a lot of physical strength there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So, and they get fit. So that's what causes them to, it's not just the moving about, it's that they have to, use their back muscles and their neck muscles to hold themselves up to engage with you.
Yeah, some of them I think actually found that a little bit more tricky than others.
Yeah.
And
especially with, it's looking at different. So like with Ruby, your dog is Irish setter.
Yes.
So she's lean and slim.
Yeah.
So she's got her head is small for the size of her body, so she doesn't have that massive head to hold up. Whereas if I'm doing heel work with Logan, he's got huge shoulders and head and neck that he has to carry.
Yeah.
And it takes physical endurance to be able to hold that position for a long time.
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And then you get your puppy bodies, which are soft and squidgy.
Yeah, not very coordinated.
Exactly, yeah. And you have to learn how to do all that, like move their back feet and their front feet at the same time.
Yeah, that was difficult for them for sure.
Yeah. So just having an awareness of all these things, and then you keep those sessions short. The learning happens the processing happens in their brain neurologically, and and then they rest and eat, and then they play, and then you can come back and do some more.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. So there was something else that I noticed as well. There was one of the videos where you had one of the pups that you'd done, I think it was one of the boys you'd done a lot of work with, and one of the girls that you hadn't done so much with, and I could see straight away a huge difference in them, So what did you notice there?
Yeah, I did notice. It was actually mainly to do with the two which the breeder was keeping.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't done anything with her because she wanted to teach them stands. Basically she wanted to do them herself. So I was just working with the puppy, the new owner's puppies. And I then started to do a little bit with them, with the breeders two at the end, which was just straight to lead walking. But I hadn't done the focus at 7 weeks with them, or the sitting or the down at like 8-9 weeks. I started working with them when they were sort of 9.5, 10 weeks. And they were a lot less like attuned to me when we were walking along, when I had the treat and trying to get them to walk next to me. Whereas two of the boys were amazing. They were straight there looking at me, waiting already. Sort of like, what can we do? What are we doing? One of the boys in particular, a natural sit and just attention was just perfect straight away. He was just amazing. I would have taken him home myself. Like, he's gonna be awesome. Sorry, and one of the other girls, actually, she was pretty good as well. Sorry, that was gonna
So you've got and I think this is with those fundamentals, that the kind of learning how to learn. All right, you've already done that at 7 weeks with the other ones, and then when you start later on with the other two, they have to go through that process of learning the game, learning the learning process. Whereas the other ones don't, because you've already taught them it.
Really good.
And we're not it's having that patience to train them. This is how we play this game, this is how we learn, so this is how we follow a lure, this is how you hold your body. And I think if we teach those first, we can train anything. But if we don't put those fundamentals in place and try and get behaviours, like training sit stays and all the rest of it, if we're chasing that result, we don't get it. But if we put the foundations in at the start, we do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
There was one other thing I was going to ask you.
Sorry, my dog is now like rolling around on the floor right now.
So she's getting on in 8 years, isn't she? Yeah,
she is. She's 13 and a half now. This is like her wake up time for dinner, really.
So it was something to do with, I think it was just expanding on that point. Roger Federer, the tennis player?
Yeah.
Right, so he came late into tennis. He was not a child prodigy, but he was an athlete or a sportsman or sports person from an early age. And his coach said that he could have turned his hand to he could have been a professional at any sport.
Yeah.
Had he chosen. because he'd learned all those basics, all those
the foundations of it as well.
And then he could just have turned his hand to any of it. Whereas Tiger Woods has been, he's played golf since he was 3, you know, so he probably couldn't turn his hand to football or cycling, you know.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah. And again, I mean, the big boy that you worked with, I just, he was the one that you were talking about taking home, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's like, he could do anything.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah, really, really cool. Lovely. All right. So, who's the worst boss you've ever had and why? You don't need to name names.
The worst boss?
Yeah.
I guess a boss that just doesn't listen to you, doesn't understand where you're coming from, isn't overly open-minded.
Okay.
And you just kind of, you're kind of fighting against anything that you have ideas for in that kind of way, which is a bit of a struggle if you kind of want to bring things to. Yeah.
So there's no flexibility, no freedom.
No. That's what I found hard, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And some of these questions, it's asking, and thinking, how could we apply that to your relationship with your dog? So there has to be some freedoms there.
Yeah, there does, yeah.
No, okay. Right, would you rather be rich or rather be famous?
Oh. Rich, maybe.
Okay, and why?
I'd probably have more freedom to do things and be able to travel and then have some dogs.
Cool, all right. What's the last foreign country you visited?
The last foreign country would have been...
England doesn't count.
Does England not count?
It should do for you, but it doesn't.
Other than England. It would have been... I went out to Malaysia and Borneo a couple of years ago, actually.
Nice.
And I was planning on going earlier this year, well, in June, however.
Yeah, something happened.
Something happened, yeah.
Something got in the way.
Something went away.
Okay. What's one accomplishment that you're most proud of?
These are very on the spot for me, John.
All right.
Probably doing my degree, for one, actually. I did it in animal science.
Okay.
I got Bachelor of Science, and I found that it was hard, but I loved doing it, and it really opened my eyes to everything else, and it's now just spiraled and put me sort of where I am today and taught me a lot. So I just kind of wanted to work on that. So I think probably my degree would have been my main challenge for me. But then also, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. How do you respond when people push back against positive reinforcement training? So people say that, you're working with clients and they say to you that you have to correct the dog, or the dog needs to know that he's done wrong.
I always try and explain to them that they don't need to know that at all. They don't need to know they've done wrong. If you work with them correctly and you teach them in the right way what they can do, it's so much clearer to them that they know what they're doing. They're happier, they're more content. And I just try and illiterate that to people. It will be much better for their relationship. The dog will trust them so much more. There'll be more communication between them both, and then you'll have a happier dog if you're using positive training. You can really work with them a lot better. Yeah.
Now, you'd said just before, because we're having a chat before we started recording, and you were saying that when you worked in England, there was culturally there's probably something different between Guernsey and England or the UK, that you seem to get much more acceptance of positive reinforcement training on the island than you do when you're in England.
Yeah, I feel I do. I don't really know why that is, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've got a lot of people that are just wanting their dog in their lifestyle to be able to go out to the cafes, go to the beach, go to the cliffs, and they really want their dogs to get on with each other. So So like, I'm not sure they do where you are, but I don't know if it's, they go on their boats here, they take them to the other islands.
Yeah.
They're really part of their family, and a lot of family dogs. So I don't know if that's a difference, but I know a lot of people here have been very open to positive training, and I go to them and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of a clicker, and I've got these treats, and I've been reading a bit about it. So a lot of people are already trying to here, whereas when I was in the UK, I found it a little bit more of a bit more of a struggle to try and get it round to people. They weren't quite as open-minded, maybe. I'm not sure.
It could be. You're just thinking about that. So the pace is slower on Ireland, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like when you go up to the Highlands or Islands in Scotland, and they're like, nothing's done quickly.
Yeah.
It's like they're slowly back.
Yeah.
So it could just be that. It's a little bit, just a little bit more chilled overall.
Yeah, it's the island life. It's like, it's cool.
Okay, nice. Right. So last thing is finish the sentence. Dog training is
a conversation between you and your dog.
Okay. So both of you communicating and both of you listening.
Yes.
Perfect.
Both ways.
Very lastly, because that's what it's just expanding on that a little bit. One of the things I really liked about the videos that I watched with you was that the vast majority of it was silent from you.
Yeah, I didn't say much to them at all.
No. And they were responding to you.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, and they're responding because of the value of the reinforcement, and that comes not just the treat. It's the smiles and the nice eye contact and the soft body movement and the gentle handling of them.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go finish that.
I say your stuff on your movement actually has taught me quite a bit, and I use some of that with my lead walking. Yeah. Just to sort of use my body a bit more and make sure I was focusing on myself as well as the puppies.
Like a dance.
Yes, like a dance.
Wonderful. No, thanks very much for your time today. That was wonderful. Really, really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So a massive thanks for listening today. If you're at all interested in learning more about dog training, I have several online courses available. If you go to glasgowdogtraineronline.thinkific.com, that's glasgowdogtraineronline.thinkific.com. There's a number of training courses there which are both standalone courses and membership courses. The Dog Training and Behaviour Modification course is £15 per month, and for that you get 10 new lessons every month on a rolling contract, kind of like Netflix. If you're interested in that course, if you use the discount code INTRO, INTRO20, INTRO20, and 20 is a 20, so that's INTRO20. At the checkout you'll get 20% off for the first 3 years. Massive thanks for listening to this episode. Your feedback is important to us, so if you've got any comments or thoughts on the podcast, or you've got anything that you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please do get in touch. You can find us on all the social media channels, so that's Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. And if you search for Glasgow Dog Trainer and Behaviour Consultant in any of those platforms, you'll find me. Or you can email me info@glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk. Thanks very much for listening, and your support means the world to us.